What's going on, guys? I'm here tearing my C24 truck apart, and I'm just going to go ahead and show what happened to this thing. When I was running it, I was running kind of late at night, and I made a little bit of a mistake. I ran into something while under power, and you can see this shaft here is smooth, and that little piece of plastic right there is actually part of the drive shaft system or axle system. You can see it's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to have little nubs on the end of it, and on both sides they sheared completely off, and you can see another little piece inside of there. But that's what happened, is it sheared off right in there as soon as I hit something, so I completely lost my front axle. So I've been going through my options, and I have a complete metal axle assembly here, which is the metal hubs with the bearings and whatnot. These are the hubs. It's a lot better of a setup, a lot nicer, a lot more reliable, and it has the metal pieces on the end with bearings all the way through it. I really wanted to use that one versus the stock one, which is what was in there, and that's what broke with these plastic ends right here. But after going through everything, the way I have my wheels set up is I have a stud that goes through there and a very large nut, a flat nut that catches this wheel. And if I just use the regular stock setup, the nut, or the screw rather, is just not nearly as big as this nut. This is not as stable. So I'm going to go ahead and go back with the original setup, the plastic setup, just to simplify this. And I'm going to keep this metal axle right here for the drift truck. I know this is going to create an issue. The issue that I was having was this is spreading like that, and it's creating camber, wobble, and it also let the whole wheel come off in the last run video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put something right here on this end to kind of clamp this back together and keep it together so it doesn't spread apart. I'm going to take this axle apart and pull this shaft out and replace it with the one from my drift truck build. You can see I took a little piece of paper clip and twisted it around the axle. You can see it right in there. Twisted it right around the axle and pinched it so it's not going to let it spread back apart again. One thing I did on my WPLs, almost all of them, I put these little spacers right on top of the axle. Basically, right here where the axle bolts up, you can see these little holes right here where the axles bolt up. You just set the spacer in between the bracket, this bracket here, the suspension truss. You set the spacer in between that and the axle, and what it does is it just drops the axle down a little bit. These are like 3 millimeters, I think, spacers. So it just drops the axle down, and it gives you a little bit more ground clearance without having to do any suspension work at all. So I almost forgot this step. I ended up having to pop these ends off the axle while it's installed. But let me go ahead and show. I use the 2-part JB Weld mix, and I just dab it on the inside of there, basically because this thing is just sitting on some ribbed grooves on the side of this axle. So really there's nothing holding it from slipping, and once it becomes fatigued or it gets under a lot of stress, it can slip on this axle itself, and then this becomes two-wheel drive again. You can see the ribs there, and you just take this thing once you've got some of that JB Weld in there. Don't put too much because you don't want it to it has to have room for that axle to go up inside of there, so you don't want it to hydro lock. If you know anything about hydro locking, you don't want the liquid to basically take up all the space. You just press it in there as best you can, and there you go. So this thing isn't going to be drivable until that JB Weld cures, which is going to be about 24 hours. Put my wheel adapters back on here, and put my wheels back on. So I'm going to go back with this waterproof Fly Sky 3-channel receiver. Got it upside down. I was using this Ghoul RC 60 amp ESC inside of here, but it's just a little bit bulky and it was just kind of a temporary thing. I've got this one here, you can see it's a hobby wing and is much smaller. It's not really noticeable on camera, but it is much smaller. It's a little bit skinnier, a lot smaller footprint. There, you can kind of see where it's a lot smaller there. It's going to be a lot smaller footprint. I wish I could have found one with the Dean's connector because all my batteries are Dean's, but this is a local quick ship, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this in there. Well, looks like I can't go that way. Let's try to go this way. Looks like she just doesn't have the ground clearance. I think we all know the results of this next test. Yep. There's no chance. Alright, I did a little bit of clearing just to give it a fair chance, I would say. Got some of the loose debris out of the way. This thing definitely doesn't have monster truck tires, so let's give her a shot. Come on, Bessie. Woo! She made it into the jungle. This is the same log. The bumper don't even make it over it. Yep. This B24 is overall a surprising machine. It has to be my most reliable WPL truck. But this monster truck did awesome. It did a lot of off-roading with a lot of ground clearance. It helped out a lot clearing some of those rocks. I'm gonna have to take this thing mudding next. I think this motor is about to go. This thing has a 21,000 RPM, 3 volt capable 180 motor in it. And being able to put 3S on there really brings these trucks to life when you have 180 motors in there. The only trouble I've had with this truck is you can see right there the leaf springs. You can see the leaf springs keep coming out in the back. When one of the set of the leaf springs on the back came out, I doubled up my leaf springs so they wouldn't break, but it doesn't stop them from popping up when they get hung up on stuff. They tend to pop out of their little brackets because they're not bolted in. This is not really a comparison video. This is just me enjoying my RCs. I rebuilt the monster truck just so I could get it back on the road again. I had to do some custom drive shafts. I had to order those and waited for those for quite some time. This truck, it's always been ready to go. I just haven't really had much time to mess around with it because I wanted to do a multi-truck running video when next time I ran this, because I've got a couple of videos of this truck already on its own. Now this monster truck is doing excellent. The only thing that I'm concerned about is these drive shafts that I've got hooked up. The grub screws that come with them are micro. They're so small that I just don't trust them. I'm going to end up ordering probably a different transmission, the one that has proper shaft links so you can use the original WPL drive shafts on these trucks, because this aftermarket setup that I've got, the drive shafts are just super thin. You can see how skinny they are and micro grubs. So until next time, hit me up, please subscribe. If you don't like WPLs, too bad. These are decent trucks. They're underrated. Yes, they have a little bit of problems here and there. Out of the box for $35 to $50, you really can't complain too much. You order a couple of parts, some metal drive shafts, some metal parts, and it'll make it a lot better of an RC, a lot more fun. These trucks are actually very capable. You'd be surprised where you can take them, and I just showed that. I enjoy these trucks more for the customization and the build process. You can literally customize them and build them whichever way you want, which is why I kind of tagged along and decided to do a couple different builds. So if you like this, please subscribe, hit me up in the comments. Until next time, deuces.